Hi, sixth graders. It is Mrs. Nelson here coming at you with the science review. So today we'll be reviewing the science concepts that we've studied the last few weeks. They'll be focused mostly on safety, tools, measurement, and metric conversion. So after we're done with this review, you'll have a Google form on these topics. But first, let's go ahead and review what we've learned the last few weeks. First thing, safety. You guys made those excellent science safety posters, and each one of you chose one of these rules to illustrate. The rules were number one, always listening to instructions. It's important to follow instructions to prevent accidents. Just thinking before you act, no horseplay in the lab or joking around. We could, trip or fall and break something. We discussed never working in the lab alone, always having someone with us, keeping our workbenches clear of coats or bags. Cluttered areas can cause spills or breakage. We also discussed, and a lot of you did a nice job illustrating, the never eat or drink in the lab rule. So that was one that a lot of you chose. When your teacher gives permission, use your hand to fan vapors toward your nose like this, kind of wafting it towards you rather than putting it right up close and taking a big whiff. Never leave a lit flame unattended. If there's ever an open flame, we want to make sure that you're close to that flame. Always wearing safety goggles when performing experiments. So that's not just hanging out in the science room, but it's when we're doing experiments, especially with chemicals. Wearing appropriate clothing, closed-toed shoes, remove any dangling jewelry or accessories, and another one, long hair should be tied back. Disposing of lab wastes according to your teacher's instructions. Reporting all accidents to the teacher immediately. Always clean up your area and put everything away properly, and wash your hands with soap and water before leaving the lab, just in case there are any chemicals on there. So, looking at this picture here, can you find 2 or 3 safety rules that are being broken in this picture? Your teacher might want to pause the video at this point and let you look for some of those safety rules being broken. Okay, I hope you had a chance to take a good look at this picture and find some. There are plenty to be found. I circled a few of them that we talked most about. You can see this girl's working with a flame. Her hair is not tied back. That is definitely a rule being broken. This guy's over here having a little snack. We don't want to do that in the lab. No eating or drinking. And a couple things here. Let me go back. Sorry about that. This guy here, he has no safety glasses on, and his test tube is facing directly here towards this other student. So that definitely isn't a safe way to hold our tube. Those are just a couple of the rules being broken here. Okay, let's quick talk about the tools that we use in science. There's lots of tools that we use, but these are the ones that we talked about last week. One of the tools we talked about was the graduated cylinder. We want to make sure that we understand the purpose of this tool, and it's for measuring volume. So it's a container that's marked with lines. You can see closely on these graduated cylinders. Those lines are used to measure the volume of liquids. Okay. And the next tool that we talked about last week was the pan balance. Okay, balances are instruments that measure mass. The purpose of these balances is to measure mass, and that's the amount of matter in something. And the last tool we discussed was a meter stick. This one's an easy one. The purpose is just to measure length. A measuring stick 1 meter long that is marked often centimeters, usually millimeters, is used to measure length. Okay, so those are the three tools we talked about and what their purposes are. All right, you guys, let's talk a little bit more about the measurement. Mass. When we are measuring the mass of something, we use grams to tell how much mass the object has. Okay? So these are the three that we talked most about. They are the milligram, which is about the mass of a small grain of sand, a gram, which is about the mass of a paperclip, and a kilogram, which is about the mass of a dictionary. Remember, we talked about those milli and kilos as being part of the words that we'll discuss most this week. All right, so volume, remember we use that graduated cylinder? Well, when we measure volume, we use liters as the unit of measurement. Okay? So 1 milliliter is about the volume of 20 eye drops. 1 liter is about the volume of a bottle of soda. And 1 kiloliter is about the volume in 4 full bathtubs. That just gives you an idea of what those words mean and what they are like when we're looking at something in real life. And the last unit of measurement that we used was length, and that we measure in meters. So a millimeter is about the thickness of a credit card. Not very big, right? A meter, same length as a meter stick, is the length of a guitar. And a kilometer is about the distance of a 12-mile walk. So notice we're going from smallest to biggest, milli being the smallest, and kilo being the biggest. All right, you guys. Now this is what Mrs. Weiss talked about on Thursday, and that was metric conversion. It is a tricky subject, and we're going to do some of our examples together, and then I'm going to see how you do with an example at the very end, okay? So Mrs. Weiss talked about King Henry, and she said King Henry died drinking chocolate milk. Well, I added a word right in the middle where our units are. And I know this is a silly phrase, but it might help us with these conversions. King Henry died unhappily drinking chocolate milk. The only difference is that unhappily, the U stands for unit. I highlighted the king and the unhappily and the milk, or the kilo, the unit, and the milli, because those are the conversions that we're going to use today in our Google class, our Google form, and also what we were taught from Mrs. Weiss. Okay, so we're not going to worry about the hecto and the deca and the deci and the centi today. All right, so now that we know our acronym here, King Henry died unhappily drinking chocolate milk, let's go ahead and try to do a couple conversions. First two I'm going to help you with. The third one I'll have you do on your own. All right, so let's take a look. We know we have 45 kilograms, and we want to know how many grams that's going to be. Okay, so when I look at the kilogram, I know we're starting over here in the kilo where King Henry is. Okay, all right, so right there I would have 45. Okay, and then I would need to count over how many spots until I get to unhappily, okay, because it is just grams that we're talking about, and that goes in the units, okay? So I have how many jumps? 1, 2, 3 jumps to the right, okay? So that's like my my 45, and then I go over 1, 2, 3 jumps. My decimal point goes at the end here. 1, 2, one more, 3, and I have to fill in those spots with my zeros. That decimal point then is going to jump to the end. Okay, and now I have 45,000 grams. Okay, all right, let's try another one. I have 85 milligrams. All right, look at the milligrams, milli. I know that that's going to start way down on this end here with the M. I'm going to try to figure out how many grams are in 85 milligrams. So I know I'm going to move backwards all the way to the U to get to my grams, or just the unit gram. All right, let's try. Take my 85, and this time I'm going to hop back. Watch my hop here. 1, 2, 3 times to get to my grams. That means my decimal point is going to hop back 1, 2, 3 times. I'm going to have to add a 0 in this last jump because there is not a number in that place. My decimal point moves back to behind the 0, and then I have 0.085 grams equals 85 milligrams. All right. Let's do one more, and then I'm going to set you loose to do one of your own. All right. 2.83 kiloliters. So again, we're going to start in the kilo or kilo side over here, and we're going to jump to the U, to the actual units right here. All right, 2.83, 1 hop, 2 hops, and 3 hops. Watch my decimal point. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to move it all the way over after I put my 0 in the place, and I see I have 2.83 kiloliters is the same as 2,830 liters. Okay, now it's your turn. We're going to start with 6.83 kilograms. How many grams would that equal? Your teacher can pause your video and see how you do. There is the answer. 6.83 kilograms equals 6,830 grams. All right, you guys, that is our review. Now that we're done reviewing, it's time to go to your Google Classroom and take your science quiz. Make sure you take your time and do your very best. Good luck, 6th graders.